The Switch 2 third-party games just ain't selling. Sure, it's the fastest-selling Nintendo console ever, but besides Cyberpunk, no one is wanting anything but Mario Kart World. Well, perhaps the game should be on the cartridge and not cost an arm and a leg, but hey, what do I know?
So the Nintendo Switch 2 is out. It's been out for almost a month now, and the games are not selling well. It's crazy when I see simps that are saying things along the lines of, it's the greatest launch in history, it's doing amazingly well, but the truth is, it absolutely is not. The console is selling very well in terms of first week sales, but Nintendo has not released any updated sales since. So basically all the fanboys rushed in, got a console, but we don't know how it's actually performing going forward, and we won't really know how it's performing in reality until after the fanboys, maybe around 10 million of them, have gotten all of their consoles. What we do know, however, is that the game key cards are not selling well, and most gamers are not buying them right now, which is putting a lot of pressure and financial turmoil on third-party companies that release their games on the Switch 2. Why are these third-party games not selling well? Why are game key cards not selling well? And how is this going to affect Nintendo going forward and the long-term success of the Switch 2? Watch to the end of the video to have all of those questions answered. Also, guys, don't forget to follow us over on Rumble. It's linked in the description of the video. And guys, don't let them convince you that you will owe nothing and be happy. Go and check out Angry's Crypto Academy to learn how to buy, sell, trade crypto, and make massive profit. It's linked in the description of the video. And now let's go ahead and jump right into the video. And the content creator who made the video will be linked in the description of the video as well.
You want to know why Nintendo is switching to game key cards? It's because of devices like this. This is the Mix Switch, where you can put every single one of your Switch games onto your Switch and basically just switch through. So devices like this, like the Mix Switch, allow you to throw all your Switch games right onto this little card right here. Then you're just going to enter it just like this, and then there's a little button and you can switch between games. So you'll just press this little button right here, just like that, and then it's just going to go between every single game on there. And that's why they're switching to game key cards, because this, at the end of the day, takes money away from them. You have the full game right there. And then what happens to the game? You could trade it in, you could sell it. I mean, that means everything that you need is literally on this little device right here. Now, there are good reasons for this. Say I'm traveling and I have all these games, like I have this game and I wanted to play it here. Well, I could load every single game right here. Throw the game in there, put it in there, connect the USB-C, connect it to a computer, and then throw it onto this, and you're good to go.
Been a couple weeks since the Switch 2's come out, right? 2 weeks. Oh my God. It's been fun. It's been fun. Now, there's some things going on out there. Was the Switch 2 a success for third-party publishers? This is an article from thegamebusiness.com. And I don't know about you, but did I get any third-party games? Yeah, I got a couple. Cyberpunk 2077. It's a nice port. It's a nice port. And then one that I really should have talked about in its own video is Street Fighter 6. I had a credit through a Video Game Plus or something, VGP, and I had to use it for something, so I bought this out of curiosity with this game key card nonsense. And this is actually worse than a game key card. I just have to say that. Street Fighter 6 is worse than a game key card because it's not just a game key card. It's a game key card with a download code. So once you use that download code, that damn game key card is actually not what's fully advertised on this box right here. I mean, I didn't know all that buying the game, but that's my own fault. I'm not blaming anybody. It does say that like on the back of the box. It doesn't say that on the front of the box though. I don't know. I could have.
So I kind of want to break down exactly what this actually means right here. When you purchase Street Fighter 6 on the Nintendo Switch 2, you get chapters 1 and 2, which are basically the DLC. However, because it comes with a download code in the box, it's not directly tied to the game key card, meaning that the actual game will always be incomplete. So you're downloading Street Fighter's chapters 1 and 2, basically the DLC, separately. And if you ever try to sell the game key card or loan it to a friend, they won't be able to actually play the additional chapters, the additional DLC, because it is not tied to the game key card. It is actually tied to that download code, and once that download code is used, it will forever be tied to your account, to the account that it was used on. This is crazy stuff, y'all. Crazy stuff that's happening. So they're just looking for more ways to screw you. Street Fighter 6 was a game that cost $60. So it's a $60 game, and by the way, you can get all of this stuff cheaper on Amazon. Amazon, you can get it cheaper on Steam, right? So you can get you can actually get the full digital game. You can download it for yourself, and I mean, and it's just a much better situation versus the Switch 2 version where you don't own it. You don't own it. It's not exactly the same as Steam, because there's actually a case in court right now involving Ubisoft where they're trying to do the whole you don't own anything when you purchase your game on Steam thing, and based on their user agreement, and it doesn't seem like it's going very well for them. They're trying to argue that you didn't own it in the first place, so they can just take it away from you. If the Ubisoft case actually fails, it basically could open up the floodgates for many more lawsuits as well, especially against Nintendo, saying that you don't own your games and they can just take them away from you, even though when they're purchased in digital format. This is a massive situation. This is a massive issue, and it just illustrates how bad things are getting. But the game key cards are not selling. They're not selling at all. They're doing terribly in the markets, and it's only getting worse. And I don't see things improving anytime soon.
Done more research on that before I bought it, but it is what it is. I hate that. I hate that when it's a code in a box and it's a game key card. That's stupid, dude. That's stupid. But Switch 2's success for third-party publishers. Switch 2 is huge, like they say here. 3.5 million consoles sold in just it was 3 or 4 days. I did a video talking about that. Fastest selling game machine in history. And it's still pumping out, man. When these stores get a restock, they sell out pretty quick. And we know, as according to them as well, that Mario Kart World, this little fella right here, had to be the biggest selling game. Everybody, who bought the Switch 2 for anything else but Mario Kart World? I'm sure there was, few who were I'm going to get it for the prospect of other games. I don't care about Mario Kart, maybe, some people. But I'm sure a good number bought it for this, right? They had to have something new to play. So that was obviously the biggest selling game, and there was a bundle with it. And all these other third-party games. There's an interesting thing they mentioned in here that I completely forgot about because it's been so long since the Switch came out. Because I was thinking, when the Switch 1 came out, there was such an abundance of games. There really wasn't. They say the Switch 1 only launched with 5 physical games, and I had to cross-reference that. I'm like, are they making that up? No. It's true. The launch games was Breath of the Wild, 1-2 Switch, Just Dance, Skylanders, and Super Bomberman R. And the launch games that I bought, I had to look at it. It was Breath of the Wild and Super Bomberman R. There's games that came out shortly after, but that was what was available at launch. Switch 2 had a wider selection with 13 physical games available, but a lot of them were game key cards. So they have some stats up here. 62% of Switch 2 physical game sales in the US were from first-party games, excluding the Switch, the Mario Kart bundle, right? They list a bunch of this stuff. Cyberpunk was the best-selling third-party game during the launch of the Switch 2, beating launch sales of CD Projekt's Witcher 3 on the Switch 1. Sega was the number 3 biggest publisher in the Switch 2 at launch. They had several games, all not new games. Be honest, none of these third parties really publish new games. So this is part of the problem, I think. Now, it says when it comes to games released both physically and digitally, over 80% of the Switch 2 game sales came from physical retailers. Okay. They say one third-party publisher characterized the numbers as below our lowest estimates. So that's one of the biggest issues here with the sales is the system's only been out for a couple weeks. A lot of people buy Nintendo consoles, and I've said this numerous times, they buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo properties. This third-party, games, the sales aren't going to be strong right off of the bat, especially when all the games that were released at launch were not new games. They're just re-releases, right? They touch on a few other things too that I think makes sense as far as like why the sales of third party games in the Switch 2 are not that amazing and maybe below our lowest estimates, despite these crazy sales of the console, right? One, I do think it may not be the biggest thing, but the game keycard nonsense has rubbed people the wrong way, but we have no other option right now. And it's hard to like this crap. I hate the download code with the fucking key card. I hate that.
Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. So, I mean, the situation with game key cards is only going to get worse. Sounds like this guy is a massive Nintendo fan, and he does not want to admit the obvious that the game key cards, he alludes to it a bit, are just not selling. Even though it says it right there in the article, people are not buying the game key cards. Most of the games sales are actually coming from physical, not digital, on the Switch 2, and the game key cards are not selling. The only games that are actually selling, more or less, is basically Nintendo's first party games, and specifically Mario Kart World. And then aside from Mario Kart World, there's, Cyberpunk has enjoyed some success, but it's just not enough. Now, I want you guys to understand something. These game key cards are a horrible thing, but there's also a major elephant in the room. And I want to show you a comment from one person because this guy just pissed me off. And I've gotten so many comments from people like him that I finally just wanted to address it. And that's one of the main reasons why I decided to just make this video instead of letting Andy Matrix just cover this topic all over again. So, I mean, guys, this is the comment from this joker. And he says, "You realize it's the developer's decision to do this. Nintendo only gives them options." And guys, of course, here you have a person simping for Nintendo all over again. But let me share some information with you about the whole game key card thing and how that and the cost of developing cards are releasing physical cartridges on the Nintendo Switch 2 actually works. So here's what I actually pulled up using AI for you guys regarding the cost of the actual cards. Switch 1 cards originally cost, and that's what they still cost, around $1 to $15, depending on the size. So going from 1 gigabyte to 32 gigabytes. So when you had games that were just very, very small, and you could just literally stick them on a much smaller card, that's what developers would use. So you could have a card that would only cost $1, and the maximum was about $15 for 32 gigabyte cards. With the Switch 2, with the Switch 2 cards, the flat cost for each one is around $16, and there's only a 64 gigabyte version only, no smaller options. Publishers can't save money with smaller cards anymore, so many are using cheap 50 cents game key cards instead, which just give you a download code. Nintendo basically made physical games a lot more expensive. And it says Switch 2 cards cost more, no cheaper options. Devs are annoyed. So that's basically what. And I didn't even ask it for that. I didn't even ask it to come to that conclusion. That's just what it actually gave me. So the AI actually gave me that and came to that conclusion all on its own. So when you have a comment like the one from the guy before, it creates a lot of issues. He's claiming that Nintendo is doing game developers, game publishers a favor by even releasing these cartridges. It's the fault of the game publishers for not wanting to put their games onto these more expensive cartridges. But the problem is that they're so expensive that it takes away a lot of the financial incentive to do so. If you're going to spend $16 or more to release your games on these cartridges, that's a major financial investment. If you ship 1 million of these cartridges, and it's $16 a cartridge, that's $16 million that you have to put up before you even make a return on your investment. Not only that, you also have to pay Nintendo licensing fees for every single game that is sold. So you're going to have to pay Nintendo money just to release the game on the Nintendo Switch 2 on top of the $16 that you're paying for the cartridge, and then hope that they sell. And these insane Nintendo fans, the Nintendo simps, are basically blaming developers for not wanting to upfront that cost. Think about smaller developers as well. Smaller developers don't have that kind of money. So, when you look at a game like Hollow Knight on the Switch 2, the idea of releasing a physical version of Hollow Knight in today's day and age would be near impossible for an indie developer. These insane Switch 2 fans are not realistic. They're basically like, if you're a broke boy, just say it. If you're a broke boy, just say it. If you can't afford to do this, then, maybe you shouldn't be releasing games at all. And it's like, so many games today would never come out if they were released on the Switch 2. It's because of Steam, where pretty much everyone can release their games and have an equal shot at competing, why many indie games even exist right now and are taking off, like Schedule 1 or Clear Expedition or Hollow Knight for that matter. All right. Everyone is literally just waiting for Silksong right now, but these games would not exist, many of them without Steam. But the Nintendo fans are so feral and so insane that these are the kinds of people who basically would say that if you're not willing to release your games on the Switch 2 and you're not able to cover the financial cost of releasing physical games on the Switch 2, then you just shouldn't do it as well. You shouldn't be making games. You should not be releasing games. Clearly, you can't afford it. Clearly, you're just not there yet. These are crazy people.
It's kind of surprising this week to find out that a lot of the physical games that are going to be coming out for Switch 2 aren't actually real physical games at all. They're these game key cards where there's just a little bit of data on there and you still need to download the rest of the game online. I think for me, what this means is I'm just not going to buy these. If I'm going to go to the trouble to buy a physical game, and I do like to do that, I'm going to want the thing that's going to have the full game on there. This doesn't really feel like a physical game at all, and it actually feels like a worse version of either buying physical or just buying the thing straight digital. That said, I do see why a lot of companies are going towards this option. Switch 2 is a more capable system, which means that the games are going to be bigger in size and you need to have a bigger storage medium to be able to hold them. The Switch 2 is not using discs of any kind. It's more of an actual physical chip-based thing. So you do need to pay more if you have a bigger game to put it on there. Nintendo is the one company that has the inside track on actually making physical games because they're producing at a huge scale. It's their system. They have a lot of reasons to release actual physical games, whereas a lot of these third parties, they don't want to take on that additional cost. It may not make sense for them to raise the price of their game. So for them, maybe this is a good option. The one big third-party option out there that we've seen is Cyberpunk, and they're getting a lot of positive feedback for actually putting the game on a 64 gigabit game card. The whole thing is giving me flashbacks to the 90s where developers got frustrated with Nintendo sticking to physical media and jumped ship and went to PlayStation where they could produce it very cheaply on a CD. These days, games are so expensive, they can't really choose to be exclusive to one platform or another. So this is just kind of the solution that they have for now to be able to release the game on the system. If people continue to be upset about this and they don't buy them, we may end up with some other sort of solution. I'm kind of looking at this honestly, and I'm feeling like my physical game collection, unfortunately, for the Switch 2 is going to be quite a bit smaller than it has been for a lot of previous systems.
With the Nintendo Switch 2 and game key cards, which these are game key cards right here, it's going to be a lot more prevalent than what we thought. Basically, a game key card is a physical copy of a game with a download code in it. Then you're going to need to put that in your system and you're going to download the game. Now, as the list keeps coming out and as Japanese have their games on their website, a lot of them are game key cards. For physical collectors, it's not that bad because you will have a copy of the game and you can sell it or trade it in and it will still download the game. You're still going to need the physical cartridge to play it, but then you're ready to go. The one big issue that I see is that you're going to need a lot of download space. So on the SD Express card, which the Switch 2 take, you're going to need a lot of space for these games. And that's what sucks, is that I can't just take a physical game with me. I'm going to have to download the game, which means I'm going to need internet no matter where I'm at. So if I'm at, say, the airport, I buy a game. Weird spot, but you buy a game. Go on the airplane. You're going to need internet right there for that, which is frustrating. So the Switch game key cards, they're going to be easier for the publisher, but they're going to be worse for us. It's like, why even buy a physical game when you can just get a digital game? What are your thoughts? Comment right there, follow right there, double click the like. It's not the best for us as consumers, but it's great for publishers as well as Nintendo.
And the thing is that a console like the Switch 2 is not going to succeed without third-party developers. Many developers felt very burnt after the original Wii came, after the Wii, because they didn't make any money off the Wii. They were not able to release the same experience on the Wii. They had to create separate games entirely when it came to the Wii versus the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, because the Wii could not run these games. So they had to create separate games or port over PlayStation 2 or older games if they still were making them to the Wii and try to use that. But it ended up costing them a lot more money and more time to make Wii games that didn't even have the same visual fidelity as consoles like the PS3 and the PlayStation and Xbox 360. And a lot of developers just did not make a lot of money off the Wii. They felt burnt by Nintendo, and that's one of the reasons why so many developers did not support the Wii U. And Nintendo had to literally spend years regaining support of developers because they no longer trusted Nintendo. Nintendo was about Nintendo. Nintendo was about Nintendo games, just like the Switch 2 lunatics. And they're basically pushing their third-party developers away. They're pushing, guys, with Nintendo is trying to pass off the Switch 2, a console where you don't own anything, as a premium device compared to PlayStation and other units. And they think that this attitude is going to work. And these feral Switch 2 fans basically could care less. Their idea is that they're just going to gaslight and bully everyone. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not the way to sell consoles or to build a community. And between Nintendo's horrible antics and the antics of the Switch 2 fan base, which is just despicable, they're pushing others. They're pushing people away from gaming, from Nintendo, and in some cases they're probably pushing people away from gaming entirely. You have a lot of people who are now leaving comments on my channel where they're like telling me about all of these great different devices that allow them to play these emulated games. For example, there's actually a console I'm looking at right now. It's a handheld. It's called the Cube. Let me see. It's called the Anbernic RG Cube. It's really cool. And I'm actually looking into picking one up. And it basically can come loaded with something like anywhere from like 2,000 or 3,000 games to even more. And it goes from like the PlayStation 1 and N64 to all the way up to like the PlayStation 2, I believe, and 3DS. And these games will come loaded on there. And you can basically play all of these classic titles, NES, everything on this device. And it's built really nicely. It's really, really great. The screen is actually square, so it's perfect for 3DS games. And it's less than $200 for the most expensive version. It's like 128 gigabyte version, and I think like a 256 gigabyte version. The larger capacity one can come with more preloaded games, and it works. It has great ratings. It works really well. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is the reality we're in right now, where they're pushing people back to piracy. In fact, you actually have that happening right now, where piracy is beginning to explode again because of Nintendo, because of what these companies have done, where you will own nothing and be happy. Well, if I own nothing, I'm not going to buy anything. They don't comprehend that. If people don't own anything, they will just basically buy the bare minimum and start pirating everything else. Because if you actually want to own something, then you're going to have to pirate it. It's an insane thing. Like, if you want to own the file, if you want to own the actual movie so that you can watch it whenever you want to, forget about reselling it, but just being able to access it whenever you like. It's, for many people, they're like, well, the only option is going to be piracy, because we can give these companies $80 and then they tell us you owe nothing. Imagine spending $80 for a game. And then you're told you own nothing. You don't own it. You don't even own the console. Almost $500 for a console. Almost $80 for a game. You own nothing, and we'll take it away from you whenever we feel like it. If we even suspect you're doing something wrong, or it's no longer commercially viable for us to allow you to own it. That's in their in Nintendo's updated user agreement. This is insane what's happening right now, guys. And that's one of the reasons why we're only going to continue seeing this thing accelerate further as more people back away from the Nintendo Switch 2 and the real sales figures start to come out. It could take 1 to 2 years, although we may see something. We actually may see something within 3 to 6 months if the sales start to fall even more rapidly. And how do we know that? Because while Nintendo will likely try to control the supply to, make it drum up scarcity and make it look like it's scarce, the reality is that if people stop buying the console once, let's say it's crossed a certain threshold of, let's say, 6 million to 10 million units, these consoles will be on shelves and they'll just start sitting there and no one will be picking them up. Because if you start to take everything from people and think that they're just going to accept it, the Nintendo Switch feral fans, they're of course going to say, oh, well, it's not that bad. It's been, other companies were doing this all along. No, not like this. And, you need to just shut up and be happy. And yeah, it's not happening, little bro. And the funny thing is that these same Nintendo Switch 2 fanatics, they abandoned Nintendo. Like, Nintendo was really angry when the Wii U flopped. Nintendo was furious with their fan base. They were like, where are you guys? Why aren't you buying our stuff? Why aren't you supporting us even more? And they basically started trying everything they possibly could do to milk their fan base because they were hurting so badly. If the Switch had failed, Nintendo would have gone completely bankrupt. Like, they were literally running on almost fumes when the Switch was released. Like, they had almost nothing. They had, and this is exactly where they're heading for again, where they're going to find themselves in a state where they don't know how to survive, what to do, and there's no one coming to bail them out. There's no one coming to rescue them. Nintendo did this to themselves. They destroyed their relationship with the fans. And they're never going to go back on this user agreement where you don't own anything anymore. We've been heading towards this for a very long time. And the next step is essentially the subscription plan, where now you'll need to subscribe to access your games and go from one console to another device and so forth as they so decide. As now service is coming to an end on this $500 device that you got, and the idiot feral fans are like, we got so much value out of it. It's only normal to transition to the next one now. Guys, these people are terrible bastards. They are bastards. They're bad people. Very, very, very bad people. And that's why we're in the situation we're in right now as a society. I will even go as far as saying.
With the Nintendo Switch 2 and game key cards, which these are game key cards right here, it's going to be a lot more prevalent than what we thought. Basically, a game key card is a physical copy of a game with a download code in it. Then you're going to need to put that in your system and you're going to download the game. Now, as the list keeps coming out and as Japanese have their games on their website, a lot of them are game key cards. For physical collectors, it's not that bad because you will have a copy of the game and you can sell it or trade it in and it will still download the game. You're still going to need the physical cartridge to play it, but then you're ready to go. The one big issue that I see is that you're going to need a lot of download space. So on the SD Express card, which the Switch 2 take, you're going to need a lot of space for these games. And that's what sucks, is that I can't just take a physical game with me. I'm going to have to download the game, which means I'm going to need internet no matter where I'm at. So if I'm at, say, the airport, I buy a game. Weird spot, but you buy a game. Go on the airplane. You're going to need internet right there for that, which is frustrating. So the Switch game key cards, they're going to be easier for the publisher, but they're going to be worse for us. It's like, why even buy a physical game when you can just get a digital game? What are your thoughts? Comment right there, follow right there, double click the like. It's not the best for us as consumers, but it's great for publishers as well as Nintendo.
If you live near the Walmart in Clarion, Ohio, run. Do not walk there right now because look how many they have in stock. I'm counting at least 20 Switch 2s just sitting there ready to sell. And I'm seeing more and more stories like this over the interwebs. I'm starting to think I made a mistake by ordering mine online. I could have just walked into any store around here and picked one up. Why did I think this thing was going to be impossible to find until 2026?
Nintendo's new game keycards are extremely shitty for you as a player, and I'm gonna explain why. By the way, nice to meet you. I'm Skip'em, and I always let my followers know when they gotta watch out for some bullshit one of these giant gaming companies is pulling. If that sounds like something you'd want to be looped into, drop a follow. So basically, on Switch 2, some games won't be on the physical game cartridge. Instead, the cartridge will act like a download key, prompting the console to download the game. And to be super clear, you won't need an internet connection after that initial download to play the game. The cartridge just needs to be inserted in the console, acting like, well, a key. But, and this is a big but, if your first time putting the cartridge in is during a trip when you don't have internet, or your internet's down, or Nintendo servers are having an outage, then of course it's just a useless piece of plastic. Plus, what's going to happen in 20 years when the Switch 2 is retro hardware? Will the servers even still be up? I really doubt that shit. And at that point, there's a good chance you won't have the original Switch 2 you had back in the day, which would mean you'd need to re-download the games. But because the servers are down, you couldn't do that, rendering your cartridge useless, unlike say an N64 cartridge that would work no matter what.
And I mean, guys, here you really have your explanation. These game key cards are terrible for the consumer. They're terrible for the publishers. The only people that are actually winning is Nintendo, and there's really no recourse to them. There's this notion that Nintendo needs to rush out, another format so that they can become cheaper. Maybe they will eventually, but it doesn't seem like something that's going to happen anytime soon. And it very much looks like this is actually this is actually a part of a much broader strategy of Nintendo to hammer down on physical games and phase them out. That seems to be Nintendo's plan. And that's exactly, sadly, where we are headed right now. The thing is, if you're going to have to buy everything digitally anyway, why the hell are you going to pick up a Nintendo console outside of being able to play Nintendo games? And Nintendo games are really beginning to suck right now, and a lot of them can be emulated. Pretty much every Switch game can be emulated right now. You play them on your Steam Deck, as legally, dump your own ROMs. You can do a lot of that. So why the heck would you actually pick up a Nintendo Switch 2? Mario Kart World is beginning to get dashed by fans who are just like literally furious with Nintendo, who are changing. They're basically trying to control the way you're allowed to enjoy the game. They saw that a lot of people were doing using the random feature in online matches so that they could do 3 courses at the same time. Like they could just basically do 3 continuous courses, like kind of like the way they would do it with traditional Mario Kart games. Nintendo did not like that, so they basically just removed it from online. So now it just essentially eliminates competitive play. Mario Kart World is not very well designed for competitive play going forward, which is and many people are moving back to Mario Kart Deluxe. Nintendo has always been very nasty towards its fans when it comes to using their games in competitive play, instead choosing to try to control how people are allowed to even compete with their games. Like, oh, you want to play our games in competitive play? Yeah, you need our direct permission, and we're going to control this. And it's just really, really nasty. And of course, Nintendo fans don't give a damn. Because they basically feel like this care console is better than everyone else's, and and they don't want you talking about it. Guys, no matter how badly Nintendo does, they will never admit to it. Even as Nintendo is facing bankruptcy, they will not admit to it. And Nintendo probably would never admit to the fact that they're facing bankruptcy. They would try their best to hide their financials. But the thing is, Nintendo is a publicly traded company, so their ability to do that is extremely limited. Eventually, they do have to legally reveal how much money they actually have cash on hand, how well the Nintendo Switch 2 is selling. They have to release these statistics. They have to let consumers know. They have to let the investors know what the health of the company actually is, and they could only try to mislead them for so long before they can get into a lot of trouble. Nintendo will be facing heavy scrutiny for their user agreement, among other things. I don't know, guys. It's pretty much not looking good for Nintendo. Switch 2 game sales are declining rapidly. They're not, they're selling less than even like the lowest expectations that these publishers had. And I don't feel bad for Nintendo. Nintendo fans are feral. They're horrible people, disrespectful. They're in complete denial, and they're only going to help to further destroy any trust that people have had for Nintendo and desire to play their games. And of course, the idiots are going to come to my channel in this video and say, fat chance, 3.5 million in 4 days, suck it. Well, yeah, good luck, little bro, because they might be selling fast right now while while the feral fans are picking them up, the fanboys are rushing out to get them. But it's not the fanboys that sustain the actual ecosystem, it's the casual consumer. And if Nintendo loses the casual consumer, they lose basically everything, which is essentially what happened with the Wii U. But that's all I have right here. Let me know if you guys agree that Nintendo is heading for oblivion and their fans are not making the situation better because they're bastards. Let me know your thoughts and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, man, walking away. And cheers.